Looks like we've got a bunch of blue check marks angry. That's right. Rage 2, by the way, which I kind of did forget was coming out next week. Just so I guess I figured I'll make this video and remind everybody. But they made a tweet. Well, I guess I'm reporting on tweets, so I guess I can't make too much fun of people. But there was an article that came out that involves now Paul Tassi put an article. If you didn't know, Bethesda's Rage 2 is coming out in 4 days. I wouldn't blame you. And he published this on Forbes. He is an actual Forbes article writer. Now, a lot of people want to give a break when we talk about Forbes or like Medium here, because they give a platform to just anybody for the most part to publish articles. But it is my assertion that if you're going to brand out the Forbes name and let people write articles, then the article is from Forbes. But in this case, it actually is from a Forbes writer, Paul Tassi. Now, Rage 2 replies back, LOL, who even are you? Now, I think, I mean, it's obviously funny, but I think that brands being edgy on Twitter is such a fine line. I mean, like Wendy's does it really well, for example. But, you know, for the most part, I mean, if you do it right, you can really, really garner a lot of respect. If you do it wrong, well, then it's just cringeworthy. In this case, I think it's a mixture of both. I mean, yeah, the brand, you know, I don't know. Maybe they didn't like the article, which we're going to look at, obviously, because I wonder where this ire is coming from. Then Paul goes, someone confused about a weirdly personal drag from a video game I'm looking forward to, but sure, I guess this is on brand. Well, then people start freaking out. Even, I mean, Young, did a video about it, and he ended up deleting it this morning. Deleted my last video about Rage 2 tweet. In retrospect, I think I looked way more into the tweet than was really necessary. I missed it. I didn't see it. So I mean, I trust Young. Angry Joe replies, nah, you didn't. It was a D move from Bethesda, who is and has been blacklisting people for spitting truth for a long time. You, me, and many others. It made them look like jerks. Rage 2 and their, quote, Twitter attitude isn't real. It's bad marketing. Paul Tassi had it right. Forget him. Strong words. Now, I will acquiesce. I will. If Joe knows something about them that I don't, okay. But I'm going to go into, I think, you know, there's a reason why you get blacklisted. And I don't really have any problem with it, to be honest with you. Because people that have early access to video games can't be trusted anyway. The video games, to be honest with you, in the state that they come out in the absolute state of things that they come out in, I would recommend people wait at least a month or two before buying any AAA title, really any game for that matter. Let all the bugs get patched out so you don't get frustrated and it doesn't ruin your experience. So the idea of reviewing a game early as a good thing for customers is something I don't agree with. I think you should be really, really, really careful about buying games on release day unless that developer has an absolute rock solid history, which there are some out there. But the idea of, you know, this is the way the economy works. Game developer gives games journalists early access and free review copies. Once they do that, then that in exchange, this is an exchange of goods for service. You get early access, which means you get to write all the articles before everyone else, which means you get all the ad revenue, and then thus you also market the game. It's an unspoken relationship. Now, you want to talk about like government blacklisting people? I disagree with that, but I feel like companies can absolutely do it if they want to. I don't have any problem with Bethesda and Ubisoft blacklisting people. EA, I've talked about it before. Look, blacklist anyone you want. I mean, at this point, you know, I may have had a problem with it in the past, but at this point, if somebody has early access or they're on good terms with the developer, I already am apt to not believe them because I just know that people covet this for whatever reason. They covet this early access because they think it makes them elite and it gives them extra clicks, which is true, I guess. But the fact of the matter is it puts a specter of doubt around everything you say because we know that these game development companies have a reputation that if you say something negative about them, and I'm speaking of EA in particular, if you speak negatively about them, they will cut you off. So it's like, if you are an actual, if you have inside access, well, then I'm already worried, because journalistic integrity is long gone in this space. So Young says the tweet didn't look good. Bethesda's blacklisting warrant discussion. But some dude behind the Rage 2 Twitter posting something dumb doesn't feel like it warrants a full video at this stage. If it escalates, there's a clearer story to tell. I'll revisit the topic. Yeah, fair enough. Young is pretty even keeled, so that makes sense. But then we see Schreier like completely get butt blasted, going, Bethesda's continued disdain for the press is pretty gross. From blacklisting outlets it doesn't like, they haven't responded to a single Kotaku email for 4 years and counting. To tweets trying to drag journalists. It's Trump-esque, fitting since Trump is on ZeniMax's board. Okay. And even Joe, good job, Joe. Joe knew what was up. He said, later on, he said later on that like the only mistake was mentioning Trump. It attracts a bunch of internet crazies. Trust me, they don't care the content. The word Trump was just negative. Well, I'm covering all angles of it. I mean, this is of course in line. Like, I wonder why anyone would think that these journalists are even keeled. And Jason, you're actually lying about being blacklisted, because there's a lot of information out there. Now, obviously, I'm not Bethesda, so I don't know their official reason, but there's a lot of speculation as to why you were blacklisted 4 or 5 years ago. If we look at, in 2013, Kotaku published a detailed report on Fallout 4, not just confirming its existence, but leaking a ton of information, including the Boston setting, the character Preston Garvey, and even direct lines from the game. In 2014, they did something similar with Ubisoft, leaking the existence of Assassin's Creed Victory, renamed Syndicate. This came after the outlet both reported on both Unity and Rogue before they were announced as well. And let's not forget that they also published early images of the unannounced Assassin's Creed Unity, which had been leaked to them by an independent source. Kotaku claims this is, quote, games journalism. They believe with their leaks they told the, quote, truth about these publishers' games. While the leaks may have been true, there's a difference between publishing truth that needs to be known and truth that you simply write for page views. In these cases, neither needed to be known at that time. Again, this is... there's nothing journalistic about feeding documents, leaking documents. It's just you're leaking. I mean, it's great for clicks, and that's why they did it. But remember, like, there's a difference. When I leak something, I don't have any signed NDA. I don't have this like professional agreement with Bethesda or Ubisoft or whatever to protect their interests. You, the viewer, are the only people I work for and the only people I will ever work for, apart from the random Dollar Shave Club ad or the mobile app, which I appreciate you letting me do without roasting me too bad, because, well, it's nice to have that sometimes. So, Jason Schreier is being disingenuous here. Unless he can prove differently, the generally accepted story is that Kotaku has a history of bad acting when it comes to Ubisoft and Bethesda, and they just blacklisted them for it. I don't really have any problem with that, to be honest with you. I mean, it's called a quid pro quo, right? Like, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. But if you want to double dip on the back scratches, then you're done. I mean, I can't imagine a world where I would see myself as a victim after burning a relationship like that. Now, I don't like people entering into these relationships at all anyway, because it puts you in this weird position where if you actually get something genuinely good to report on, then you can't do it because you've got to hold your horses because you've signed this agreement with Bethesda or Ubisoft. Now, I've talked about stuff with these companies before, and I've had their PR people reach out to me about Fallout 76 going free to play, and it never did. I was wrong about that. It certainly looked like it was going to, but they've reached out and corrected me when things are wrong. But also, I've never promised to not leak anything. Kotaku, I'm sure, did, or at least that was unwritten law. Now, you look at Paul Tassie's original article here. If you don't know, Bethesda's Rage 2 is coming out in 4 days. I wouldn't blame you. Well, 100,000 people are going to watch this. So I play video games and write about them for a living. So it means roughly 14 hours a day on my computer or my phone. I don't want to hear about video games journalism being hard. I never want to hear that. If I ever tell you that this job is hard, by the way, and I'm not calling myself a journalist, I want you to massively downvote whatever that is. It's not hard when you get to play video games. It's a dream. All right? Nobody weeps for ye. I've seen relatively little promotion for the game, though granted, I've not been exactly watching much commercial-filled TV these days, but I've heard so little about it. I know that reviewers got copies a few days ago. Look, hey, hook a guy up. Yo, hook a guy up. They're not going to hook a guy up. So this isn't Bethesda's no more review copy thing from years ago. Oh, it is. It is great. I didn't read this. So I always like to read the articles with you all for the most part, because that way my reaction and takes are natural and not scripted. So the overall cone silence around the release of this game has been exceedingly strange. The only news about Rage 2 I can even remember from the entire past year has been a little dust up with Far Cry New Dawn, which decidedly shared the similar aesthetic. Then yesterday there was a good-looking, funny launch trailer for Rage 2. This is a weird time for Bethesda, a studio in need of some good news. Fallout 76 was the worst reviewed major title in several years. Okay, so this article is not wrong. Bethesda has two big projects in the future, far-flung future, Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield, but these are next-gen and 2 to 3 years away at least. Here in the meantime, they need a hit, and hopefully Rage 2 is it. Fallout 76 is trying to crawl its way back from the brink, and it does seem to have established at least a niche community that enjoy it. All right, well, that's the thing. Is Rage 2 going to make it happen? I guess we'll find out in a few days. I'll have thoughts then. This does read like a little... This does read like a little bit of... salty peanuts to me. I mean, you don't need to get the stuff early. This is an ego thing. 500,000 people a day watch my videos, and I've never gotten a review copy of anything. People are willing to wait for a reasonable take, and I'm not a video game reviewer, but at the end of the day, this does sound like sour grapes from Tassie, and it sounds like obviously Schreier dogpiling on, and actually, to be clear, I'm not dragging Young or Joe here. I just thought it was relevant that two, they might not call me their peers, but two similar commentators, peers in the industry, had something to say about it as well. I wish I had seen Young's video because maybe he's got some more insider information, but I think the reality of it is nobody cares. I don't care if some random Forbes article gets a review copy for a game. Doesn't matter to me. I don't trust him anyway. I hope you enjoyed this video, though, and we'll talk to you again real soon.